The phone rang after sunrise. Kaltume's father answered. Hello? Baba, it's me. There was a sharp gasp. Kaltume? They told me you were dead. I'm alive, she whispered. I'm safe. A long silence followed. Babagana said the kidnappers killed you. I'll explain everything, Baba. But first, I need you to come to Port Harcourt. Come alone. And please, don't tell anyone I have called. I will be there, he replied without hesitation. Welcome back to Northern Tales, where silence is broken and every woman's story finds its way back to her own voice. Last time, Kaltume discovered that her husband, Babagana, had hired men to kidnap and kill her for her ransom. But while he believed he was planning the perfect murder, he had no idea that someone else had already begun planning his downfall. For many days, plainclothes operatives had followed him quietly. Nkem had given only one instruction: let him build his own case. So they waited, because every word Babagana spoke was another nail in his own coffin. For the next few days, nothing changed inside the house. At least that was what Babagana believed. They still ate dinner with the children. Sometimes they even sat together in the sitting room after dinner, watching television, without saying much. She laughed when he joked. She even asked him one evening if he had made any progress with his business problems. To Babagana, everything seemed normal. He never imagined that every meeting he attended, every suspicious phone call, and every visit to the men he had hired was quietly being watched by Nkem's team. The trap was closing around him, and he had absolutely no idea. Then 2 days later, Kaltume told him she would be traveling offshore the following morning. I'll probably be away for about 2 weeks, she said casually, as she packed a few things inside her suitcase. Babagana looked up from his phone. So soon? She smiled. You know how the work is. He nodded slowly. That evening they had dinner with the children, like every other night. Nothing felt unusual. As Kaltume walked upstairs after dinner, Babagana watched her go. A small smile appeared on his face. By this time tomorrow, he told himself, none of this would matter anymore. He believed he was saying goodbye to his wife. Meanwhile, the morning after Tyree's recording reached Nkem, he called Kaltume into his office. She knew immediately from his face that something had changed. He closed the door, placed the recorder on his desk, and looked at her quietly. I have listened to it 3 times, he said. They are no longer talking about harming you. They have fixed a plan. For a few seconds, neither of them spoke. Then Nkem leaned forward. I think it's time to stop watching. Kaltume's heart began to race. What are you going to do? Nkem was silent for a moment before answering. We are going to let Babagana believe he has succeeded. I stared at him. I don't understand. We are going to stage the kidnapping. The room fell silent. You will disappear, he continued, but only from Babagana's point of view. That evening, Nkem disappeared for several hours. Very few people knew the kind of reputation he had outside the oil company. Years before joining executive security, he had worked with law enforcement on organized crime cases across Rivers State. Men involved in kidnappings, armed robbery, and cult violence knew his name. Not because he was feared for violence, but because once Nkem focused on you, your freedom rarely lasted very long. Late that night, he met the 3 gang members without Babagana. The meeting lasted less than 30 minutes. Nobody argued. Nkem simply placed photographs on the table. One showed the gang leader from a robbery investigation years earlier. Another showed one of the men collecting ransom in a previous kidnapping. Then he calmly mentioned the names of their wives, their children, their mothers, not as a threat, but as proof that he knew exactly who they were. Finally, he spoke. You have two choices. You can help a man murder an innocent woman, or you can help me put him in prison. One of the younger men lowered his head immediately. The gang leader swallowed hard. And if we refuse? Nkem looked at him calmly. Then by this time next week, every file I have on each of you will be sitting on the desks of the police, DSS, and the anti-kidnapping unit. Nobody spoke. After a long silence, the gang leader finally nodded. What do you want us to do? Nkem answered quietly. Exactly what Babagana expects. When Kaltume had the plan, she was the one who hesitated. I don't mind risking my life, she said softly. But my children. She stopped speaking. Images of Abdul Qadir trying to stay strong. Maimuna crying for her mother. Adamma blaming herself flashed through her mind. Tears filled her eyes for the first time in many weeks. They are going to believe I've been taken. Nkem nodded gently. I know. And your father? He asked. He will hear the news. Kaltume closed her eyes. For several moments she said nothing. Finally she whispered, if this is the only way to stop him forever, then let's do it. The following morning, everything happened exactly as it always did before an offshore trip. The children hugged her goodbye. Adama packed snacks into her travel bag, despite Kaltume insisting she already had enough food. Babagana carried her suitcase to the front door. You will call when you land, he asked. Of course, she replied with a smile. Then just before getting into the car, she hugged him. It wasn't a long embrace, just long enough for her to quietly say, pray for me. Babagana smiled warmly. Allah will protect you. Kaltume looked into his eyes for a brief second. I mean, she wondered if those would be the last sincere words she would ever say to the man she had once loved. The company vehicle pulled away. Babagana stood at the gate watching until it disappeared around the corner. He smiled to himself. Everything was finally beginning. What he never noticed was the familiar company driver had been changed that morning. Behind the wheel sat Tari, and instead of driving Kaltume toward the airport, they turned into another road leading to a secure company safe house prepared by Nkem. The real operation had just begun. Less than an hour later, Kaltume's phone went dead. Her company driver could no longer be reached. By midday, nobody knew where she was, exactly as planned. At 1:30, Babagana's phone rang. The gang leader spoke first. We have your wife. Babagana lowered his voice immediately. Good. You weren't followed? No. Nobody knows. Excellent, Babagana said. Every word was being recorded. Just a few meters away, Nkem sat beside the gang leader wearing headphones, listening without making a sound. Babagana never suspected a thing. An hour later, he made the call he had rehearsed in his mind many times. His voice broke with perfectly timed tears. Baba, Baba, he wailed into the phone. There has been a problem. Kaltume has been kidnapped. On the other end of the line, her father's world came crashing down. And Babagana performed the role of a devastated husband so convincingly that only one person listening to the recording wasn't fooled. Nkem. Because he already knew. The man crying into the phone was the same man who had ordered his wife to be murdered. For the next 48 hours, Babagana played the role of a heartbroken husband perfectly. He hardly slept. He answered every phone call with a trembling voice. He prayed loudly whenever relatives gathered. He even held his children close while they cried for their mother. No one questioned him. When the kidnappers finally demanded 20 million naira, the old man did not argue. My daughter's life is worth more than money, he said quietly. With Nkem's guidance, the ransom was delivered exactly as instructed. Every bundle had already been documented. Every movement was under surveillance. Babagana was informed immediately. The money has been paid. He smiled for the first time in days. Late that night, his phone rang again. The ransom is complete, the gang leader told him. There was a brief silence. Then Babagana spoke the words everyone in Nkem's operation room had been waiting to hear. Don't release her. Finish it. And make sure nobody ever finds the body. Inside the operations room, no one spoke. Every officer was staring at the recording equipment. Nkem simply nodded once. Keep him talking. The gang leader asked quietly, what do we tell the family? Babagana answered without hesitation. Leave some blood in the vehicle. They will believe she fought back. Burn her phone. The rest, bury her somewhere deep. A heavy silence filled the room after the call ended. Even some of the officers looked away. They had had many criminals before, but there was something deeply disturbing about the calmness in Babagana's voice. The following morning, the second part of the operation began. On a lonely stretch of road outside Port Harcourt, Nkem's team staged the scene exactly as Babagana had imagined. The company vehicle was abandoned. One window had been shattered. There were signs of a struggle. A small amount of animal blood stained the driver's seat and the ground beside the car. Kaltume's handbag lay a few meters away. Her scarf had been torn deliberately. Photographs were taken and quietly sent to the gang leader. Minutes later, they appeared on Babagana's phone. He looked at them for a long time. Then he typed only 4 words. Good. Now leave immediately. Nkem looked up from the screen. That's it, he said quietly. He has just convicted himself. From that moment, Babagana stopped pretending to be afraid. He began making plans, real plans. He discussed where Kaltume's death should be announced. He thought of supporting the children through their grief. He even asked Falmata whether it would look disrespectful after the burial. Neither of them realized that every call, every message, every voice note was already safely in Nkem's evidence file. Babaga's story was over. A full week passed. Across Nigeria, everyone believed the same thing. Kaltume was dead. Her children barely spoke. Little Maimuna cried herself to sleep every night, asking when her mommy was coming home. Even Abdul Qadir, who tried so hard to be the man of the house, would quietly disappear into his room whenever visitors came for condolences. Adamma blamed herself. If only I followed Madame, she whispered over and over again. Babagana played his part perfectly. He received mourners, accepted embraces, allowed people to cry on his shoulder. Sometimes he even cried with them. Nobody questioned him until the 8th day. Very early that morning, Kaltume picked up a secure phone Nkem had arranged for her. Her hands trembled as she dialed the only number she had wanted to call since the operation began, her father's. The phone rang just after sunrise. Kaltume's father answered. Hello? Baba, it's me. There was a sharp gasp. Kaltume? They told me you were dead. I'm alive, she whispered. I'm safe. A long silence before he finally managed to ask, what happened? Babagana said the kidnappers killed you. I will explain everything, Baba. But first, I need you to come to Port Harcourt. Come alone. And please don't tell anyone I have called. I will be there, he replied without hesitation. But with the helpless relief of a man who had already buried his child in his heart. He was in Port Harcourt that same evening. Then Kaltume told him everything, and Nkem showed him all the evidence they had gathered against Babagana. When she finished, there was a long silence. I am so sorry, Baba, she whispered. I had to let you believe it. Otherwise, we would never have caught him. Her father wiped away his tears. You don't owe me an apology. You came back to me. That is enough. Please don't tell anyone I'm alive. I will explain everything. 2 days later, a convoy stopped quietly outside Kaltume's house. Nkem stepped out first. Behind him were 2 police vehicles. Kaltume's father climbed out. Then Kaltume. The front door opened before anyone knocked. Adamma froze. For one impossible moment, she simply said. Then she screamed, Madam! She ran across the sitting room, wrapped both arms around Kaltume and burst into tears. The noise brought the children running. Little Maimuna stopped in the doorway. She rubbed her eyes once, then twice. Mommy! Kaltume opened her eyes. Maimuna ran so fast she almost knocked both of them to the floor. She clung to her mother, crying so hard she could barely breathe. Abdulkadir stood several steps behind them, trying to smile, trying to be brave. For almost a minute, he didn't move. Then the 16-year-old boy who had spent the last week pretending to be strong finally broke. He walked to his mother. He held her tightly and cried into her shoulders like the little boy he used to be. Kaltume closed her eyes. For the first time since this nightmare had begun, she allowed herself to cry too. Standing a few meters away, Babagana looked as though he had seen a ghost. His lips moved, but no words came out. He took one slow step backwards, then another. Nkem watched him carefully. He already recognized that look. It was the exact moment a guilty man realized the story inside his head was beginning to fall apart. One of the police officers stepped forward. Mr. Babagana, we need you to accompany us. Babagana looked from the officers to Kaltume, then to her father. What is happening? Nkem answered calmly. During our investigation into the kidnapping, we recovered communications, recordings, and financial evidence. He held Babagana's case. They suggest this kidnapping did not begin with the kidnappers. It began with you. The room fell completely silent. Babagana's eyes slowly turned towards Kaltume. For the first time, he realized she had never been his victim. She had been waiting for him to destroy himself. Half an hour later, after the children had been taken upstairs by Adamma, and Kaltume's father quietly led the remaining relatives outside, the house finally became silent. There was only Kaltume, Babagana, Nkem, and the senior investigating officer. Babagana sat quietly. For the first time since they met at university, he could not look his wife in the eyes. Kaltume walked slowly to the television cabinet. Without saying a word, she connected her phone to the speaker. A familiar voice filled the room. Falmata, there are many ways she can die. Then Babagana answered calmly, almost casually. No, poisoning is better. Nobody moved. The recording continued. The kidnapping plan, the ransom, the poison, the murder. The room that had once been their family sitting room now felt like a courtroom. When the recording finally ended, silence settled over everyone. Babagana closed his eyes. It was the conversation that had started everything. Slowly, Kaltume turned the speaker up. You remember this day? She asked quietly. Babagana said nothing. It was the day I stopped asking myself whether I could save my marriage and started asking how I could save my life. Another long silence followed. You thought you were planning a new future with my money. She looked directly at him. You never realized I had already begun writing yours. For the first time, Babagana understood. None of his plans had failed by chance. He had quietly stepped out of every trap. She had stopped funding every escape. She had documented every mistake. And when the time came, she had simply allowed him to speak. The police officers stood. Mr. Babagana is tied. The handcuffs clicked shut. As they led him towards the front door, Kaltume took a few slow steps behind them. She stopped beside him, close enough that only he could hear. Her voice was barely above a whisper. You thought I survived because God exposed you. He turned slowly. She gave the faintest smile. No, God gave you every opportunity to stop. You chose every step yourself. His face crumbled. Then she leaned closer. I never defeated you, Babagana. You defeated yourself. The officers began walking again. After a few steps, he looked back one last time. Kaltume met his eyes and spoke the final words he would hear before leaving the house. The grave you dug for me, deep grave, it has become your own prison. Babagana lowered his head. This time he did not look back again. The story spread across Nigeria within hours. Television stations discussed it. Radio presenters discussed it for days. Newspapers called it one of the most shocking attempted murder conspiracies in recent memory. When journalists asked Kaltume how she survived, she thanked God first. Then she thanked the company that had refused to ignore the warning sign and had done everything possible to bring her home safely. She never revealed how the operation had been planned. She never mentioned Nkem by name. Some heroes, she believed, deserved their privacy more than their praise. Across the country, people reacted with disbelief and anger. Many demanded the harshest punishment the law would allow. Others simply could not understand how a husband could patiently plan the death of his wife, the mother of his children, who had built his life. Meanwhile, inside a quiet prison cell, Babagana sat alone. The noise outside no longer reached him. Again and again, he replayed every decision in his mind. Somewhere along the way, he realized something that will haunt him for the rest of his life. Kaltume had never beaten him with money, or power, or revenge. She had beaten him with patience, and with the one thing he never believed he possessed: wisdom. Thank you for listening to Northern Tales. If this story reminded you that love should never cost your life, please share and subscribe. Until next time, protect your peace.